Breaking right now, Prince Harry back. Another public appearance without Meghan Markle. This time addressing the NATO Military Committee. According to Taz, posts on this, what the actual. Harry is nothing more than a poster boy for Invictus, which he and his wife had steadily ruined by turning it into the Meghan Markle fashion show. Dominic Reed quit for good reason. But Tasha Canal, according to Taz, great to have you. This is quite interesting though, isn't it? Because it's the first appearance for Harry, but what we don't know is, was this message pre-recorded, and why has there been no promotion around it whatsoever? Something is going on because he was on his solo tour and no one even knows if he's returned to Montecito at this point or how long he spent away.
No, that's very true, Dan. We did obviously have the surfing video which made an appearance, but again, we know that Harry and Meghan have a habit of pre-recording things and then they like to release it. Normally when the King and Queen or Catherine and William have an event, and then they like to release the images or the slick videos that Archwell likes to produce. Now, obviously, we haven't had much coming from Harry and Meghan whilst the King has been on tour to Australia and Samoa. We did obviously get a lot of the divorce rumours, but as you said, this is the first time we've seen Harry. I'm unsure if this is pre-recorded. There's lots of varying information going around at the moment. They've made it sound so official that Harry was at a NATO meeting, and it is to do with the Invictus Games. Nobody there looks particularly interested in him either. He's not exactly attracting the crowds that he once used to, or people's attentions anymore, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? It is interesting, but certainly they will be plotting, they will be planning, but of course what everyone wants to see, or maybe doesn't want to see, is whether there is going to be a photo opportunity showing them together. Because as I have reported, Tash, there is strain in the marriage now, serious strain, because things haven't worked out professionally, and that's difficult for both of them. So there is pressure on them to at least show that they are back together. Of course, we also know that Harry was planning a solo holiday for his 40th birthday, and it is quite possible, you see this with royals a lot, we're going to be talking about it with Charles and Camilla shortly, that immediately after his tour, which Harry considered hard work, although for most people actually it would be easy, that he may have gone away then. But you have to admit, Taz, as a 40-year-old, it's a really odd thing to want to go on a solo holiday for your 40th birthday, leaving your wife and children in the mansion. It again points to serious strains.
Oh, definitely. Of course, there's nothing wrong with wanting to spend the odd night away from your partner. I think we all do it, and especially if you're parents with young children. There's absolutely nothing wrong with parents wanting to go out and have that time away. Generally, if they do that, they like to go out together. But yes, for Harry to spend so much time away from his wife and from his children, it definitely raises questions. There's so many things that you think that they could take their children to. I've often said with the Invictus Games, it's a family-orientated event. You know, there's lots of children there. Meghan likes to go along and sit with children sometimes and post the photograph later to be used for an Archwell video to show that she's, you know, really comfortable around children. Their children could quite happily go to those events and be with nannies. And yes, I do find it odd that they can spend such large time away from their children, weeks at a time, and then extending it by them further going on holiday. Now, I'm sure the children are being well looked after by nannies, but for a couple that constantly say the most important job in the world to them is being mum and dad, I mean, it's hardly surprising that Archie got confused and called the two palm trees in the garden mum and dad, if you remember. That was something that came out, I think, on either Harry's Fair or one of Meghan's conversations. Those children must be very confused with the lack of time they actually get to spend with their parents, I think.
You know it's bad when the royals, who never speak, suddenly have something to say. Zara Tindall, Princess Anne's down-to-earth daughter, and her blunt, rugby legend husband Mike have reportedly had enough of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. No palace press release, no Instagram statement, just a quiet leak that they're betrayed, embarrassed, and disgusted. When the family's most easygoing cousins reach boiling point, you know the house is on fire. Sources tell multiple UK outlets the Tindalls draw a straight line from Oprah to Netflix to Spare. Every revelation felt less like catharsis and more like carpet bombing the family. To them, Harry didn't just torch bridges, he live-streamed the blaze for ratings. Mike, famously loyal to Prince William, was already bristling after Harry's physical altercation claims. When Meghan piled on with, "The palace failed to protect me," it landed as a direct shot at the relatives Zara and Mike still work beside every week.
Now, major developments, which I've been wanting to talk about for some time, in terms of Mike Tindall sending a real message to his old mate, Prince Harry. He's been able to do this via his new book, which is predominantly focused on rugby. So before people think he's doing a royal tell-all, he's not. But what's been very interesting, Tash, is for me to track the evolving relationship between Mike and Zara Tindall with Prince Harry. Because you'll remember in the early days, I mean, look, they got on like a house on fire. They were genuinely mates. And Mike Tindall was like the lovable older cousin that Harry absolutely loved. But, and this is something that a lot of people haven't realized, Tash, things have gone completely pear-shaped because Zara and Mike Tindall consider that Prince Harry and Meghan's behavior over the past few years has been completely reprehensible. And do you remember this scene? It was during the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, and you could cut the tension with a knife. And I spoke to sources close to the Tindalls who said that they wanted nothing to do with Harry and Meghan on that balcony, and they were completely disgusted that the Sussexes chose to skip the function afterwards, where they were meant to be thanking members of the public on behalf of the Queen, who of course couldn't attend that particular event. Now, what's so interesting is that Mike is a classy guy, so he hasn't come out in this book and attacked Harry and Meghan or anything like that. He wouldn't do that. But there are a number of coded messages. So writing in the book, he said, and this is James Haskell, who's the England rugby player who is good friends with the Royals and very close with Mike Tindall. And James Haskell writes, it did come back into public consciousness when that very odd bloke, Omid Scobie, started sticking up for Harry and Meghan, and loads of trolls went in on Tins, especially about him wanting to fill in a young, defenseless Harry. All context, sarcasm, and humour lost when things are taken out of the zone they were meant to be in. To be fair to Tins, he gives 0 Fs about stuff like that, but it's very annoying for him. Royal fans can be mental. So let's kick off with that, because the inclusion of that makes it very, very clear that the royal family are completely disgusted with the behaviour of Omid Scobie, which has been going on for a number of years, trying to stir trouble where none exists. And again, Mike Tindall is smart enough to know that that is all being prompted by Harry and Meghan.
Of course, I mean, they call Omid Scobie, which I know he hates, so it delights me in calling him it, but he is their cheerleader, and he has certainly helped twist the knife, push the attacks on members of the royal family. Like you showed that picture of Mike playing with Harry. They used to roughhouse each other. I mean, Mike and Zara actually took part in, I think it was wheelchair basketball for the Invictus Games. They were an incredibly close family. Zara and Mike were very affectionate with Harry. They are with all of the royal family. And I think they also feel very protective, and they've seen how much damage has been caused by Meghan entering the family, the change in Harry attacking absolutely everyone. And then, of course, you've got Omid, who seems to have come out of nowhere. He arrived pretty much on the scene when Meghan did. He got his foot through the door because of his connections, because of Meghan, and was given the position. I mean, he made it onto the royal rota. So he's been given a leg up, and he is someone, I would say, that is the chief stirrer. He could have a wooden spoon and he could stir up absolutely anything. He's continued to do so. And obviously we know that they contributed to finding freedom. But the most disgusting thing for me with Omid, where I can't even say anything playful about it, is obviously when he said those accusations accidentally, on purpose, leaked in a version of his latest book, where he accused Catherine and the King of being the royal racists. So he is just as unforgivable as those two when it comes to the attacks on the royal family.
Tash, this guy is a revolting scumbag. Omid Scobie. He is an odd little bloke. I've always described him as an odd little bloke. He wants to look like Michael Jackson. It's very, very bizarre. But let's put his looks to one side. His personality is horrendous. This is a guy who did a online countdown clock for the announcement of Catherine's cancer diagnosis.
Oh.
He has no class. He is a scumbag. And the irony is that he, just like Harry and Meghan, likes to portray the fact that he is somehow combating trolls, when actually he is one of the biggest trolls out there. He is the guy who constantly is bigged up by the Sussex Squad. We know, I've exposed them. They are the biggest gang of internet trolls in history. And what I think is really telling about this is that, mark my words, him being named in a book written by Mike Tindall, who is married to a member of the royal family. That is not a coincidence, Tash. These coincidences do not happen. This is the royal family saying, Omid Scobie, you are a scumbag. And I love the fact that I've actually used my lingo, because I've called him the very odd bloke, because he is just so odd. He's so odd.
At last year's Jubilee service, the tension slipped on camera. Zara, normally the hug and kiss royal, kept a frosty radius around the Sussexes, while Mike was caught on a hot mic calling them those lot. Royal code for "we're done here." Zara's the perfect royal litmus test. She grew up horse mad on her mum's Gloucestershire farm, never took a title, but still shows up for Commonwealth Day in a hat and heels when duty calls. If she thinks you've crossed a line, palace courtiers quietly log that as unanimous. Mike's even plainer spoken. On his Good, Bad, and Rugby podcast, he tiptoes around royal gossip, until now. In his new rugby memoir, he singles out that very odd bloke, Omid Scobie, a Sussex mouthpiece, for fanning the family feud. Translation: if you attack William and Catherine, expect a tackle from Uncle Mike.
Yeah, Mike certainly has never, he's never really, he didn't say anything wrong. He never has, even at the event that they didn't go to after the Jubilee. It's obviously that Harry and Meghan threw a tantrum because they were booed very, very loudly. The booing was overheard.
And they didn't like the seats. They didn't like their seats, remember?
They didn't like the welcome that they received. So they stropped off like toddlers rather than respecting the Queen. I mean, they were very lucky they were even given an invite, considering everything that they did and all the lies that they told on Oprah, and then, of course, all of the other interviews that they did afterwards. And for Mike to have called him a rude name afterwards quite publicly, I've always liked Mike for it. I'm very excited, actually. I'm buying this book myself next week. I like the podcast that they do, The Good, Bad, and the Rugby. But I love the way that they have not used this book, like you said. It's not another royal bashing book or anything. This is, if you've actually listened to the podcast, they're always ribbing each other over one thing after another. And Mike obviously does get a lot of ribbing being a member of the royal family. But the way that he comes out with things, and you can tell that obviously it is a true account of what's really happening behind the scenes with the royal family, about the fact that they see Omid Scobie as such low level, low class, especially after everything he's done. So I'm glad in a way they've managed to get some digs in there that, the royals must be desperate sometimes to fight back.
Yeah, finally the royal family agree with me. Omid Scobie is an odd little bloke. But look, there is a more serious side to this book, and I think it's so important, Tash. So there's a whole chapter that is dedicated to royalty, and within it, Mike, and again, he's a classy guy. He doesn't name Meghan. He doesn't talk about the marriage to Prince Harry. But what he does is he sets the record straight about what it's really like to be a member of the firm and what it was really like to spend time with Queen Elizabeth II. Because remember, Meghan Markle has tried to claim it's horrible, it's awful, they're all so revolting. I was an outsider, they're so posh and they bow and curtsy to everyone, all of that. And Mike writes, I'm sometimes asked if the Queen did informality like normal people. And the answer to that is yes. Her life wasn't like an episode of Downton Abbey with meals on long tables and everyone dressed in their finery every night, and Zara and I would often watch the racing with her on TV, as I'm sure lots of people reading this have done with their gran. He went on to say, the royals aren't much different to anyone else underneath it all. Now, again, I know he hasn't named Meghan and Harry, but that is the ultimate riposte, because what he's saying to them is all of the claims that you were made to feel like an outsider in this really weird and odd family are lies. And look, we've always known they're lies, but this is significant, Mike talking about his entry into the family, because of course he was a celebrity in his own right, a bit like Meghan Markle.
Yes.
Not a huge name. She wasn't a huge name either, but that had a taste of stardom, and he fit in perfectly fine.
He did fit in fine. Autumn Phillips, I know that they've separated now, but she fit in fine. She was actually another Canadian actress as well. Very, very similar CV to Meghan. It seems to be only Meghan had the problems that she did when she joined the royal family. And as I think most of us can guess now, most of those were of her own making. But I love the fact that Mike is obviously tactfully talking about the royal family and reminding people that they are a family. It's so easy to get caught up in this whole, I don't know, especially with things like, the Crown and all of the stories on Netflix that came out, and people see it as a big dramatic thing. And you forget that these are people, they are grandparents, they are aunties, they are nieces and nephews. There is such a lovely, warm affection with that family. And obviously Harry and Meghan, to get across their victim narrative, they spent the last 5 years, I think it's 5 years now, it feels like a lifetime, those two, with their moaning. But they always try and make out that it's an institute. They try and strip away any of the family, any of the nice bits of the royal family. It's just a hunk of machinery, and they were forced to work to death like cart horses. That's the way that they do it. So it's so lovely to see Mike obviously reminding them that they are actually a very loving family, a very close family, and there only seems to be one common denominator with the problems that have affected that family. Well, I suppose two, obviously, because Harry is also equally to blame. But nobody else seems to have the problems. And I think he even said that, didn't he? It's very easy to be part of the royal family. You're nice to them, they're nice to me,
Totally. But the thing is, Meghan never wanted to be sitting in the late Queen's modest little living room at Balmoral watching the race scene. That wasn't her life. Her life was being at Soho House, flying first class to places. So she's not a family woman. Look at how she's treated her own family.
She didn't want the family.
No.
She did not want the family, Dan. She wanted the prestige. She wanted the platform. She wanted the fame. She wanted the money. She wanted everything. She certainly did not want to join the family. What was it, Harry's wording? The family that she never had. She was never interested in being part of that family. That's why so many problems started from the moment that she got her feet under the table, in my opinion.
Their silence had always been the monarchy's secret weapon. No comment, no fuel. The fact that this couple let their true feelings leak tells insiders Charles's big tent diplomacy is wearing thin. He'll keep the phone on, but Zara and Mike have slammed the emotional gate. Twitter, TikTok, even the normally Sussex-friendly corners of Reddit lit up with approval. Viral post of the week. The Tindalls just showed you can be royal, adjacent, and classy. No tell, all needed. Fans love that Zara still competes in muddy cross-country events. Mike still cracks dad jokes on daytime television, and neither has cashed in a palace secret for a Netflix check. Meanwhile, Harry and Meghan's brand feels like a headline treadmill. More content, less credibility. The contrast writes its own tabloid splash.
No, you're completely right. Look, I want to show you this this interview of Eric Trump, because of course, Tash, huge week coming in American politics, and the result of the election could well impact whether Prince Harry is able to stay in the US. So this is the Daily Mail in America asking Eric Trump directly. So it's interesting there, Tash, because the Daily Mail were obviously hoping from a journalistic point of view that he was going to say, no, we're very angry about the drug taking. He might be deported. Look, I guess what we know is that Harry and Meghan are desperately hoping for a Kamala Harris victory because it would just take that issue off the table forever.
Yes, I think so. I don't think they want the outcome of Donald Trump coming in, whilst I don't think that Harry and Meghan will be at the top of his list of his priorities of things if he does take the presidency again. Obviously, politics is a dangerous subject. I don't know enough about American politics. We've got enough problems with our own. But that was actually very true what Eric said. People that like the royal family in America, the actual royalists, like the royal family. And Harry and Meghan did initially get a big fan base because you had some people that liked the drama. It wasn't really that they were that interested in Harry and Meghan Megxit up until they did Oprah. Once those bombs started dropping over the palace and Harry and Meghan were listing racism and suicidal thoughts, and the royal family were, cruel towards her while she was pregnant, their unborn child, titles being stripped and all that other nonsense. Then you had the people that were like, oh, drama, goody. So then you still had the original royalists. Then you had the people that liked the drama. But the drama's become old. It's become tired. It was a flash in the pan moment. There's nothing more to Harry and Meghan. So unless they can make up some new drama, they're losing that initial fan base that they have built up, because you've still got the original royalists. And if anything, because Harry and Meghan have treated their family, especially Harry, so badly, I think it's backfired on them, because I think Americans on the whole generally are very, very caring about families. And to see that played out on the worldwide stage, I think a few more Americans, because of Harry and Meghan, became royalists. They may not want anything to do with the monarchy in the USA, but as far as following it and liking Catherine and William and then the King and Queen, I think if anything, Harry and Meghan's little plot to destroy the monarchy's backfired on them, because people have a lot more respect for them.
Yeah, that's really interesting, actually. I agree. Now, the King, he had a very successful tour, didn't he? Of Australia and Samoa, especially given 75 years old, suffering from bad cancer, let's just be honest about it, had to pause his treatment. Yeah. So it's very lovely, actually, that he's gone on the way back and spent 3 days at this very exclusive Indian resort called Scobie. But what's very famous about this resort, Tash, is that, it's expensive, by the way, £3,000 a week. But it's all about health and wellness. So apparently the King and Queen's days have started with morning yoga sessions. This is according to the Daily Mail, followed by breakfast and rejuvenation treatments before a healthy vegetarian lunch. A second round of therapies follows the midday meal, ending with meditation session before dinner and lights out by 9 p.m. And you know what? I am all there for Charles actually being able to get a bit of TLC, because he worked hard, given that he's in the midst of cancer treatment.
He did. He worked very hard. He was doing up to 10 engagements a day. He was doing a lot of traveling. He did have to pause his cancer treatment, so he was able to do so. Obviously, the details are still fairly private. I hope they remain so. But it's quite obvious that was a very, very hard graft. As you said, he's 75. Queen Camilla herself, she's that little bit older. She's 77. She suffers from, I believe it's osteoporosis as well. She gets backache quite a lot, which can affect her, which runs in her family. They did amazing. I think I would have been shattered flying all the way to Australia. Dan, you've done that flight. It's exhausting, let alone constantly being dressed up, changing, parading, meeting people, important speeches, flying onto Samoa. And obviously taking the time to meet so many fantastic people. I loved it, but he must have been absolutely shattered. So I'm glad that he did enjoy a little bit of a holistic retreat. Charles is all about the holistic medicine.
Behind the gates, courtiers whisper the divide has moved from Cold War to open freeze. Charles may hope for a reunion photo op, but his niece and nephew-in-law just drew a very polite, very public red line. Emotionally, the Sussexes have run out of royal runway. So where do you land? Are Zara and Mike standing up for family? Or piling on a couple who never had a fair shot? Drop your take in the comments. If you're here for royal reality checks without the palace PR gloss, hit like, tap subscribe, and ring the bell. More No Spin Royals coverage is on the way. Until next time, stay curious and keep your crowns polished.